business owners are so eager and so excited and really want to get into business and start doing stuff, whatever, that they don't do the necessary due diligence and the necessary foundation steps and the necessary things before they get into business.
As an entrepreneur would say, get the IP early, like get it now, like while you're filing the damn LLC.
I don't care if you have the AI tell me what to do and then I fix it, or if you just skip the AI and I do it. Just make sure whatever you're doing, have a professional review it at some level.
This episode is brought to you by Forha. That's Forha. Forha is the senior engineering team that builds the software and automation systems growing businesses run on, with AI inside doing the heavy lifting. Find your biggest bottleneck at forhaanalytics.com. Mention Untrapped Entrepreneur when you book and claim a free 45-minute Untrapped audit. Forha pinpoints the one system that would buy back the most of your team's time and maps exactly how to build it. Yours to keep, whether you work together or not. Book a free 45-minute audit today with Forha. Spots are limited. All right, guys, welcome back to the Untrapped Entrepreneur. I've got Matthew Fornaro here with me in beautiful South Florida. Matthew's a business law attorney serving Coral Springs, Parkland, the broader South Florida business community. And since 2003, he has worked across commercial litigation, contract disputes, business formation, construction, intellectual property. That's a fun one. I've been in both sides of that. And business documents. He's also the business owner, mentor, graduate, and instructor in entrepreneurship programs, giving him both legal and founder side perspective. And I love that you've got an entrepreneurship flair, because we're going to talk about this, the lawyer to entrepreneur. I don't know if you know this, but attorneys have a reputation for not being the best business people.
And I'm shocked to hear that. Please, I was going to, buy your magic beans until you said that. So
yeah. So it is a thing, but I've met so many attorneys that are great business people, and whether they learn along the way, trial and error, which we'll get into, or just have a good business sense. I like business minded attorneys. So tell us. Why don't we just go back just real quick to the beginning of not your legal career, but how you started dabbling into the entrepreneurial world. I don't know if that happened at the same time, or if you ended up veering off into more of the entrepreneur path.
Sure. Well, it happened during my legal career, because I was just a cog in the wheel and a peon up until about 11 years ago, when I decided I want to go start my own law firm. And that's kind of how I got, that is how I got into the entrepreneurial spirit and started my own business, was starting my own law firm. Prior to that, I grew up watching my dad, who's an entrepreneur, who had a small business, who's retired now. By the way, it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday.
So that was my foray into entrepreneurial stuff. I was watching my dad grow up, and then kind of just, working for the man until I decided I wanted to start my own law firm 11 years ago. So that was my foray into the entrepreneurial experience myself. And that's where I've been the last 11 years.
Okay. So, I left a job at one point many years ago. I was tired of working for this one guy, and he did some things. Was there like a final event that you just said that's it, or was it more of a gradual process?
It was more of a gradual process. I actually had the opportunity, and I had one foot out the door to actually go work, because I worked at two large Am Law 200 law firms. I actually had the opportunity to go work for an even bigger law firm, to go do, commercial litigation representing big businesses, banks, financial service companies, things like that. And I was all set and ready to go. And then I was like, am I going to, what am I doing? Like, I had like a metaphysical kind of, moment where it's like, am I going to be like the dude who just dies behind his desk, and they're like, oh, he's a nice guy, you got to watch after, 70 years or whatever, or I'm going to do something. So, I wanted to go and help, people who are more akin to seeing my dad growing up, people out in the suburbs, small business owners, entrepreneurs, startups, not necessarily just big businesses or whatever, where it's all I don't know to say thankless work, but it was like, just a cog in the wheel. So that was kind of came to a head. I was ready to go work at my big job. And then I was just like, no, I'm going to start my own thing, go out to the suburbs. And like I said, focus on helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups. And that's what I've been doing for 11 years. So it wasn't really one moment where I'm like, Fred Flintstone running out of work, like a Flintstones reference at the end of the day. But it was just kind of, I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's what I did.
So when you decided that you're going to do your own thing, you had a specific target market, the small business owner. What was it? Was it seeing your dad, like struggles he had or advice that he needed and didn't get? Or what was like the emotional appeal to you to that small business owner?
Sure. I think it was a little bit of growing up seeing like my dad and like, people who my dad did business with, whatever, be underserved by professionals because, excuse me, because, like my dad, did pretty well, he's retired now, made money or whatever, but he wasn't like, the he probably did seven figures, like high seven figures kind of thing where it's like, oh, that appeals to a big law firm or that appeals to a big accounting firm. So like he was underserved by not, getting into like a big metropolitan like style, like law firm, like accounting firm, a big five accounting firm, whatever. And then at the same time too, like, his attorney is a nice guy. I know him, but like he wasn't really attuned to helping like small businesses do things. Like he was kind of whatever came along is what he does. And again, very nice guy, very helpful, whatever, but that's not like really what his focus was or anything. So that kind of was in the back of my head where it's like, all right, well, I saw that growing up and like, I know there's a whole market of people who obviously there's more small businesses and entrepreneurs than large businesses in the US, particularly now, where I think that, they're underserved because they're not big enough to hit a certain plateau to go to a big firm where that's what they focus on is helping business or whatever. And at the same time, the local law firm or the general practice attorney isn't really attuned to helping small businesses or being in that space. So that's kind of what led me to focus on my practice area and my niche.
Yeah, I've always appreciated, I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years and worked at a startup before that. I've always appreciated an attorney who sits in a similar place that I do, meaning someone that owns their own firm, started their own firm, maybe relatively small to medium size, like that matches my profile. So when an employee leaves and I don't know, they steal client data and they violate a non-compete or whatever the case may be, that they can personally relate to that. Like they wouldn't want that done in their business, or maybe they've had it done in their business. They've had that experience. And I've worked with some really big law firms where they've never had to meet payroll, directly. And nothing wrong with those attorneys, but I personally, as an entrepreneur, I like to do business with people that they have felt what I felt before.
No, I agree. I mean, when I used to work at big law firms or whatever, like, yeah, I still represented big businesses and stuff like that, but I was more of like a theoretician than a practical practitioner. So like I understood the concept of, oh, your employee left or, oh, whatever. But, there's a big difference between understanding things in theory and then understanding, like you said, like I have to pay bills. I have to get health insurance. I have to do my tax or, work with my accountant to do my taxes. I have to worry about, payroll. I have to worry about commercial lease, rent, my office, things like that, things where I didn't have to worry about that. So there's a much different mindset and a much different skill set where in addition to the law stuff, the business acumen and the business knowledge is there as well, which again, I respect that too when I deal with professionals who own their own business or, whatever, because it's a totally different perspective, a totally different mindset where not only do you bring your professional skills and knowledge to the table, but you also bring that knowledge and that experience of having your own business, which I think is invaluable in being able to advise a business on what to do. Because legally, yeah, that could be great, but from a business decision standpoint, that could be terrible advice. I always try to temper that, or at least that's what I do when I represent my clients.
Yeah, I just had a conversation today with an attorney who's one of the guys I was talking about, guy similar to you, I bet. But he's like, hey, we could go down path A, and here are the consequences, and it's a lower cost path, and here's the consequences, and here's what's likely to happen. We go down path B, it's going to be more expensive, but you could just tell the way he approached it was from a business cash flow perspective and not necessarily a legal one first. You did mention business acumen, which is a good segue into one of the traps that you shared with us before the show. And you said your entrepreneurial trap was a lack of business knowledge when you started your own firm. So what did that look like in real life?
Sure. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Like, I had no business education whatsoever in my entire life. Like, I had no business education in high school. I was a political science major in college. I had no business classes. Law school doesn't teach you anything about business. Working at big firms doesn't teach you anything about business. So other than, osmosis from seeing my dad growing up, like, that was my only business education. So luckily, there's a lot of resources out there for business owners, small business, and whatever. And two of them were things that I'm now instructors for, which is the Kauffman Foundation Fast Track Program and the Jim Moran Institute Entrepreneurship Program, which is two programs that were free that I got into that I did early on in my business, owning my business, what am I going to say, practice career or whatever. And those kind of filled in a lot of the blanks and filled in a lot of the gaps as far as I didn't know anything about business. I learned a lot about business and about various things. And that's kind of the knowledge I got and evolving over the last 11 years of learning from other people's businesses, learning from my own business. And now I'm able to instill and impart that knowledge onto my clients. And then, when I volunteer for those two programs as an instructor for them.
Is there anything you underestimated at the beginning? I don't know if you came in going, oh, this is easy. Like, it's everybody owns businesses. But was there anything where you were really far off on?
It's just, obviously a lot of people own business, That doesn't mean they're doing it the right way. I think not just from a legal compliance standpoint, from a tax compliance standpoint, but just from a doing things the right way, which means, keeping corporate formalities, having the right documents in place, complying with the law, complying with tax issues, whatever. I think I just kind of took that for granted. And, and then other things like, over the last 11 years, just website, social media presence, SEO, just crazy things that you wouldn't think about when you work at a big company or do whatever that you have to worry about yourself. Geotagging, just things that are totally incomprehensible to a non-business owner. Just, that kind of stuff where I just took it for granted or didn't even know I was missing out on it, where now I think I'm pretty proficient at it, but it's been, 11 years of learning it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a difference from being just a good attorney and a good business person. I always think about the cupcake shop. It's got the best cupcakes in town, and nobody knows it because the door's not opening and the phone's not ringing, and the best cupcake shop in town goes out of business. Not because the cupcakes were bad, but it seems like it's not exclusive to attorneys by any means. I do see like subject matter experts. Have you ever read E-Myth by Michael Gerber, the book?
Yes.
I mean, it's great. You have these, like, that technician. You're the best attorney in town or the best doctor, and you think that's good enough to actually make the business work.
No,
it's just true. The beginning.
If people don't know who you are, what you do, you could be the best at whatever, but you're going to die on the vine. So,
yeah. Anything that you could probably talk for hours about this, but anything you're seeing, let's just say in the last 6 to 12 months, try to tighten your memory here, common traps that you're seeing business owners fall into, any common patterns with your clients?
Common issues that business owners face, it's pretty much the same issue that it's been not just for the last 6 to 12 months, but for the last 11 plus years, is business owners are so eager and so excited and really want to get into business and start doing stuff, whatever, that they don't do the necessary due diligence and the necessary foundation steps and the necessary things before they get into business. And then they either metaphorically or literally pay for it later on. So they're so excited to get into business, or so excited to do whatever, that they just go on their Secretary of State website and register online. And they think that's it, I'm in business. And they don't, consult with an attorney. They don't consult with an accountant. They don't consult with a banker. They don't consult with a commercial insurance agent. They just go, and they don't have a written business plan in place. They don't really know why they pick their business organization. They just arbitrarily pick, a lot of the time, LLC, just because, not necessarily because it's good, but because that's what, mom or dad told them, or their cousin told them, or the internet told them. And they don't have the governing documents in place when they sign up online on the Secretary of State website. So they don't have an operating agreement. They don't have bylaws. They don't have articles of incorporation. And then doing things going forward, they don't have contracts. They don't have written contracts. They don't have terms of service on their website. They don't have terms of service on their app. They don't have the right language in their emails. They don't have, an employee handbook, an operations handbook. They don't have, contracts with vendors. They didn't review their commercial lease. They don't review things. And it's just kind of, that's how they start out. And sometimes they're able to fake it till they make it, and they go back and fix it after the fact. And they pay a lot of money to go retroactively put all that stuff in, or, they don't succeed and they literally pay the price because they don't have those documents in place. So they may have individual liability or certain things that, if they would have done the due diligence on the startup, they could have avoided. So that's not just the last 6 to 12 months. That's probably the biggest issue I see with any new business, startup, or entrepreneur, is just jumping into things without doing the due diligence and putting in the necessary legwork and the necessary tools and background stuff before they get started.
Well, there are some new things in the last 3 years or so that I want to talk to you about, which is AI. Is AI making things better or worse in your world?
Well, I love AI. I use AI in my practice of law. I use AI in running my business. I use AI in my social media. But like the first and last thing I say about AI is you got to take ownership over it. You have to fact check it. For me in the legal industry, you have to check all the legal citations and everything that it puts out there. And you have to take ownership of it. And AI could be right. AI could be wrong. You don't know until you check it, or you have an expert or a subject matter expert check it. So, I love it. I think it's great. It's a force multiplier, a time saver, great tool, totally changed all businesses, across the board, but at the same time, dangerous. Because you don't know what you're putting out there, if it's right or wrong. And if it's wrong, there's major consequences to it. So that's my kind of soapbox speech on AI, as a warning or whatever. But yeah, I think it's great. I encourage every business owner to use it ethically and responsibly, because it's, like I said, it multiplies your productivity. It saves you time. It's great. One of the things I've seen in my practice, or at least representing, businesses and entrepreneurs, startups, founders, whatever, is that one, just like back in the, historically, now people just use Google searches to find documents and do whatever. Now they just use AI to generate documents, and they could be disastrously wrong or whatever. And then two, they also, when, I'm already retained as their attorney, or they're working with their accountant, and I'm collaborating with their accountant or whatever, they now use AI to try to tell me what to do and or second guess me. And, I don't poo-poo or, automatically dismiss anything that anyone puts in front of me. If you're my client or whatever, you send me something, whatever, I'll review it. I have no problem reviewing it, I'll never be dismissive of what you send me. But when you send me stuff, it could be right or it could be wrong. And if it's wrong, it's really wrong. That's why I'm the attorney, or that's why I'm working with the accountant or the banker or whoever. And you're sending me what AI, wants you to see or whatever. And it's not necessarily applicable to where we are, or not necessarily applicable to the facts. And, it's interesting because I get second guessed, or, eyes over my shoulder, or Monday morning quarterback, whatever you want to call it, basically on a daily basis now by all my clients, because they run everything through AI.
That's why I asked you that. Like, you got to be getting hit from multiple angles. Like, I'm coming to you as my attorney saying, hey, I've already drafted this and it's perfect. And I'm an LLC and I can't represent myself pro se. Like, can you just review this and sign it, and you're looking at it and it's a bunch of slop, or maybe it's halfway decent, but the expectation is to come to you and pay you as little as possible because they've done 99% of the work and they just need a signature. So I know that's happening because I know friends that are doing it.
Ben, it happens on a daily basis. People, like I said, they second guess you. They try to anticipatorily tell you what to do and it's wrong. Or sometimes it's right. And again, if it's right, that's great. But sometimes it's wrong and it's really wrong. Or like you point out, a lot of people are like, oh, I got these documents in place. I just need you to review them, revise them, and send them out. And okay, I wish it was that easy. Because sometimes the documents are kind of okay or whatever. They still need to be revised regardless of how good they are. But sometimes they're really off and they really need to be revised or whatever. And it's, I just have to essentially start from scratch. And like, I can put all your nouns in the new document, like, person, place, thing, address, whatever, but the substance sucks. And, I got no better word to use than sucks, sorry. But it's, and I have to redo it anyways. And it's not as simple as you think it is. But that's another thing too, is that people give me work product and they think it's great. And they're like, oh, just sign off on it or do whatever. And it's not that simple. Sometimes it's okay. And sometimes it's not.
You run the business, your systems run the rest. Forha, that's Forha, is a senior fractional engineering team that builds the custom software, integrations, and AI workflows behind growing companies. Same idea as a fractional CFO, but for engineering. Senior people on your problem, scoped by project, no full-time payroll. One client cut candidate delivery from over a week to 48 hours without adding any headcount. And you own everything they build. Mention Ben Davis sent you and claim your free Untrapped audit at forhaanalytics.com. Well, that example I gave you today, I had a conversation with my attorney that the consultative side of things you could go down one of many different paths. Which one should I go down? That, to me, that takes a conversation, someone who can explain to me the consequences, pros and cons of each one. And if I put that into ChatGPT, I'm not going to get that type of consultative conversation. It's just going to say, you should do this. And I say, well, could I go down path B? And it's going to say, that's a great idea. Yeah, go down path B. Well, could I go down path C? That's an excellent idea. It's always telling me how smart I am. But, now I've got 5 excellent ideas. I don't know which one to choose.
Well, that's because AI, wants to give you the right answer and make you happy. So that's what its end goal is. So you can always pick 5, 6, I don't know, as many paths as you want. Oh, that's a great idea, Ben. Why didn't I think of that? Or you go back to the AI and you're like, that was a terrible idea. Well, you're right, Ben. That was a terrible idea. I should have thought of plan B.
That's right.
But that's why you have someone who's a human who's familiar with the subject matter, who can give you alternatives and actually reason through the alternatives, because the AI can give you the alternatives. But like I said, all the alternatives are great. Pick one, Ben. And that's what the AI does. And that's kind of why you still need the human reasoning behind it.
Well, let's switch gears to, instead of thinking of AI as our friend, actually tapping into other humans and human networks. You benefited from a couple of programs that you mentioned, these entrepreneurship programs. And that entrepreneurship gets easier when owners stop learning alone, I would say. Like, imagine you would agree with that. But tell us about your journey and just connecting with others, either through those official programs or having a friend or business network, formal networks, informal ones. But how have you tapped into community there to help you along the way?
Sure. So, it's interesting because I have my own business on one side, and the other side, I'm a professional who helps others with their businesses on another, but they kind of intersect and overlap. So I have, in my own business world of doing my business, like I have a, fleet of professionals who I lean on, ask advice for, give advice for whatever. And then as an attorney, it's the same thing. I have another fleet. Sometimes they overlap of people who I collaborate with. And I gladly collaborate with, not just professionals, but other business owners, other entrepreneurs, people who want to start business, whatever, because, I don't always know the right answer. I don't even know the right question sometimes, but, collaborating with others, you do get the right answer and you do get the right question to ask and things like that. So I have no problem and enjoy collaborating with other people, whether it's on my own business or as an attorney. And, I've worked hard over the last 11 years to build up a network of on both sides of, not just professionals, but if you want to call amateurs who I can rely on, who I can bounce ideas off of, or just consult with in their various, just general business practices or specific like accountants or other attorneys in other practice areas or commercial insurance agents regarding insurance questions or bankers regarding money issues. So I've put together a network, pretty big network at this point in time of, people who I legitimately know. I've given up a lot of and particularly even before COVID, I was phasing this out of like going to like events and handing out cards and doing things and the, hey, nice to meet you kind of thing or whatever, and just make more like meaningful one-on-one contacts, particularly, in the age of like Zoom and stuff where I can, video chat with people or whatever, and try to make like more meaningful, deep connections with, individuals, professionals, whoever, rather than just like showing up at, chamber events or bar events or whatever and handing out my card and hoping something happens. Like I try to do that and try to cultivate better relationships. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that, particularly the last 5+ years. So that's how I've put together my network. And again, if anyone has any questions or whatever, when they come to me, if I don't know the answer, I know someone who probably knows the answer or I can refer them to.
Henry Ford, I think about that. He was standing trial and they were giving him a hard time because he didn't know like how to make his cars. He knew very little about cars, but he said, I can pick up the phone and call anybody, like ask me any question and I can find the answer for you.
Yeah, no, it's true. Henry Ford knew about black paint and charcoal too. So
yeah,
I was reading a thing about how he all the Model Ts were black because it was the quickest color to dry to facilitate making the conveyor or the assembly line go quicker. Then also he found out that they were using so much wood or whatever, and whatever it was they were doing, he essentially invented the charcoal industry and invented Kingsford charcoal.
Oh, interesting.
Where it was based on all scrap wood from Ford. So.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's talk about marketing because my perspective is, in talking to entrepreneurs over the last almost 20 years, is the person to get the phone to ring, and the best person to get the phone to ring is not necessarily the best person that answers the phone. It's not the same person in many cases. So going back to that, you may be an amazing attorney, and as soon as you pick up the phone, you'll have all the answers. Be a great consultant. But it may not be the person that does all the SEO and everything like that. Tell us about any advertising, marketing traps, like what you've learned along the way, where you've wasted some money. Just anything you can share that will help other people maybe avoid an obstacle or two that you had to go around.
Sure. Well, Ben, we can have multiple episodes on money that Matt Fornaro has wasted in 11 years on marketing, but I think I'm pretty good now at being efficient in what I'm doing. But, when I started out, in 2015, really wasn't that long ago, but it really was compared to where we are now in like social media development and, like I said, SEO, GEO, and all the stuff that goes with Google Business Profile and all that stuff. Like that was a world away even 10 years ago. So I wasted a ton of money on, well, not necessarily a ton. I'll give myself credit, a lot of money, not a ton, on just dumb things that didn't work, that I didn't know because I was a first time business owner and like, whatever, yada, yada. And like, there wasn't as much information available now as there is. And, partly because of like AI and stuff like that, where that's actually good information, but wasted a lot of money on like print media, which is totally useless for what I do, and just other crap that was useless. But now I think I'm pretty proficient at what I do and how I do it. Because like I said, I've integrated a lot of technology, a lot of good technology that's really cost effective and efficient at doing things to, make the phone ring or make the email box full or make my messages or whatever full in 2026 that, like, again, 10 years ago, I didn't even know what that was. And now I think, the technology is a lot better now to make things a lot more accessible to people and to make your business a lot more prominent for less money. And for instance, I'll give you an example. So like I'm pretty proficient in social media. I'm pretty prevalent in social media. Like I have tens of thousands of followers, whatever. But I have a lot of my stuff, I approve all my stuff I put out or whatever, but a lot of it's like automated and stuff like that. And I pay a ridiculously low amount per month to do that because it's all on an automated platform. And I remember when I started out, meeting social media professionals, whatever, where that space is now dying, if not dead, based on the fact that technology's totally replaced it. But I remember like these people wanted like, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, up to $5,000 a month to do like social media posting and like stuff like that throughout the day. And now it's been replaced by, or they've been for the most part replaced by like an AI program that costs like $100 or less per month. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of thing where previously, a lot of people wasted a lot of money doing whatever. And now technology has totally facilitated it and is nailing it and is doing it better than they ever could for less money. So that's totally the kind of thing where now, your entrepreneur, your business owner, whatever, didn't even have that option a few years ago. Now it does it better than the people for, less than 10% the cost.
Well, and with costs coming down too, I think people should be really wary of long-term contracts, even if it's an industry standard. There's a reason why the software company is trying to get you into a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal. I've seen things happen just in the last 12 months where something that was being proposed for $2,000 a month for some fancy AI agent is like $200 a month, like literally a 10x for the exact same thing.
No.
But they're locking people in for 12 months at $2,000 a month or maybe even longer.
Yeah.
So I definitely would be wary of that because everything is changing very rapidly and costs are likely to go down and not up on some of these newer technologies. Because, the trap that I think that people fall into is they're comparing that cost of whatever the program is to hiring a human. And so that's how they sell it is like, this is $2,000 a month, but if you had to hire someone, it'd be $10,000 a month and I'm saving you $8,000. And you're like, oh, I'm saving $8,000, but you were never going to hire the $10,000 person. And even if you were, you have to look at it, from a competitive standpoint on what is this worth and where are there competitors out there? And you're probably going to find a 2,000 that's 200 or 500 or 700, especially in the AI world. So
yeah, no, definitely the technology goes up and the price goes down on a daily basis. And like you said, there's really no reason why in a lot of things, particularly in like service area things that are AI derived or AI driven, why you should have a long-term contract, because it's pretty much all month to month now. And everyone understands it's month to month and there's no reason to have a long-term service contract. Asterisk, as an attorney, I can tell you historically, they love getting us into long-term contracts on everything. And I'm not going to name names, but the traditional uh, the traditional like attorney-based CRMs and legal research models, they're all long-term contract based. That cartel hasn't been broken up yet into a month-by-month basis. So even though we're telling others not to do that, we're stuck with it ourselves. So because there's no other alternative.
Man, but
Yet
the
when
software,
someone
yet
breaks that, they're gonna do pretty well.
I'm wrapped into some long-term software agreements where I never thought I would build my own software, and now it seems like I have to because it's just too easy to build exactly what I want.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take some legal work. There's going to be, I've got to put some things together.
Mm-hmm.
But building you don't need to know software to build software. It's kind of crazy to think about. You need
Yeah.
to know nothing about building software to
No.
build it. You don't
It's
need to know
all
code.
the AI knows how to do it. So
Yeah. Someone starting out today, I know we've gone back to 11 years when you started, but you've got new entrepreneurs coming to you today. Maybe you're filing their LLC formation docs and operating agreements and things like that. And they ask you, like, Matthew, I know you started your own business 11 years ago. Like, is there anything I should know over the next 12 months? Anything I should definitely not do, or mistakes that that you've seen other people make just in present day that you'd give some advice to?
yeah, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier of just doing the necessary due diligence and complying with the formalities, which a lot of people just skip over and think it's, they don't need to do it or whatever. And that's probably the biggest thing you can do is that you want to do everything from the compliance standpoint and from the due diligence and the proactivity standpoint. So then that way you can just focus on making actual business decisions and focus on your business and whether it, fails or succeeds on the merits rather than technicalities. So that's probably the first thing I say is make sure you do all that due diligence and stuff from a, legal accounting standpoint, whatever. And then at the same time too, there's there's more than one right answer in doing business in 2026. So, whatever works for you, you're going to figure out what works for you. There's no one size fits all thing for business, but there's a lot of information out there, a lot of useful information, a lot of good programs out there, and just seek them out. Seek out other business owners to ask questions for, because it takes a village, and most business owners are willing to help other business owners, particularly new business owners, even if they're in competition with them, because there's enough business out there for everybody where it doesn't, having a good economy and having multiple successful businesses is better than whatever. So just reach out for people for information. Ask people, if you don't know the answer, go find someone who does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the AI thing too is really interesting. Like, do you want your clients? You set some up with all the right docs and everything, and they go along their way. Do you want your clients to? This is you personally, maybe even, but do you prefer them to go and do their research and prepare draft documents or do anything in AI and come to you, or do you prefer the opposite? Like, don't go there. Call me first.
Ben, I don't really have a preference because just call me. I don't care if you have the AI tell me what to do and then I fix it, or if you just skip the AI and I do it. Just make sure whatever you're doing, have a professional review it at some level, whether it's refining it and putting it out there or drafting it from the beginning and putting it out there.
Just don't do it all on your own.
Don't do it yourself. And then, after the fact, be like, oh, I didn't know. Just have a professional in the mix somewhere.
Yeah. I will mention too, just in all my business ventures, the importance of IP. I made a mistake in one of my businesses. Unfortunately, an amazing attorney helped me out, but I created a product line. I thought it was the coolest name. I worked with a marketing agency. I said, that's the one we're going with. I print a bunch of tubes and tins and everything. This is in the men's grooming industry. I put my name all over it. And then I find out from an attorney that one of the largest firms globally in the cosmetics industry had an intent to use on that mark. It took me 2 years, and we beat them. Thank God we beat these guys. I got to keep my name, But I had been in business for a number of years. I knew better. But like you said earlier, I was moving too fast. I fell in love with the brand and the name and everything. But I know you mentioned IP as a lot. You've got a lot of experience there and can help with that. But I just personally, as an entrepreneur, would say, get the IP early. Like get it now. Like while you're filing the damn LLC, like make sure you get your intellectual property, because there's some nasty lawsuits coming your way potentially, especially if you're as successful as you think you're going to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just because the word intellectual is in front of property, it's still property. So you wouldn't leave, your wallet full of money hanging out for someone to go take it. So why are you leaving your IP out for someone to go take it? And it's the same part of the due diligence. If you have an IP component in your business, whether it's your name, your product itself, you're going to have a trademark, a service mark, whatever, a trade secret. If that's part of your business, you got to protect it, just like you protect the money in your bank account, just like you protect the office furniture. It's no different. And if you're going to do it from the inception. Just don't do it retroactively, because you may run into some major problems.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Matthew, it's great chatting with you. I want to let our listeners know and viewers know where to find you. Where's the best place to find you? Online, website, LinkedIn, all that good stuff.
Sure. So just go to my website, which is fornarolegal.com. Just my last name, Fornaro legal.com. It's got all my contact information. It's got all my social media. I'm all over social media. It's got my videos, my blogs, all my stuff on it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, call me, message me, whatever. And like I said earlier, if I don't know the answer, I probably know someone who does.
Awesome. And you're operating out of Florida, obviously, but what other states do you operate in? Where can you not help people? When should someone not call you?
Sure. Well, depending on what you need, I can help you nationwide, depending on what the needs are. I'm also licensed in DC and New York, so I can do anything there. And like I said, if you have a question, or you don't know an attorney in your area, or you don't know an accountant or a banker or whatever in your area, contact me, because I probably know someone who does, or I know someone who knows someone who does. So
awesome. All right, man. We will make sure we get your website on the show notes here, and I appreciate you joining us today and sharing some of these traps that not only you've experienced, but some of your clients have too.
I appreciate that, and thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Until next time on Untrapped Entrepreneur.